Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Mysteries from Beyond the Other Dominion. I'm your host, Dr. Franklin Rule, and today we're going to investigate two-headed dinosaurs, ask if UFOs are from Earth's future, tell you the fascinating details about the very first kamikaze, investigate the forest of missing people, and tell you the intriguing tale of the plowboy prophet, and cover other fascinating subjects. But first, could this two-headed entity have once existed on our planet? To answer this question, we must look at the dinosaurs' nearest living relatives today, namely the reptiles. Now, of course, reptiles and dinosaurs had both similarities and dissimilarities. For example, dinosaurs were thought to be warm-blooded, reptiles cold-blooded. And dinosaurs, of course, moved like mammals, either bipedally on 2 legs or quadrupedally on 4 legs, whereas the reptiles either slithered like snakes or moved splay-footed like lizards. But they also had another similarity. They had the same type of skull structure. Both had a diapsid skull. That means having 2 holes on each side of the skull, which actually made the skull more efficient, allowed for muscular attachments and made it lighter. Therefore, he was able to be a more effective eater. And very importantly, both are what is called oviparous, that is egg-laying. And egg-laying actually promotes two-headedness. For example, with mammals, a two-headed entity coming out the birth canal does present problems, but not for a two-headed entity in an egg. Now, there are many reptiles, specifically snakes, around the world, such as in zoos, that have 2 heads. In fact, down at the San Diego Zoo, they have a corn snake named Thelma and Louise. Let's take a look at it. What an amazing sight. But if Thelma and Louise were in the wild, it is believed that they would quickly perish. So if two-headed snakes exist today, then possibly two-headed dinosaurs existed in the past. But would they have been efficient hunters? You can see a problem with T-Rex here. The left head might have wanted to chase a victim on the left side, the right head, a victim on the right side. That indecision would have allowed the prey to escape. However, he was also a carrion eater, a scavenger who ate dead dinosaurs, and dead dinosaurs do not run away. So he could have existed. How about the Brontosaurus, also known as the Apatosaurus here? Well, he was an herbivore, a plant eater. If the left head wanted to eat leaves on the left side, the right head, leaves on the right side, no problem. The trees were not going to run away. So he, too, could have existed. Now, I'm going to make a prediction right now that within the next 20 years, a paleontologist somewhere on Earth will find the fossil remains of one dinosaur body with 2 heads and have to acknowledge that at some point in the past, two-headed dinosaurs actually existed on terra firma. When we return, the question, are UFOs from Earth's future? Welcome back. Is it possible that UFOs are from Earth's future, that they represent advanced aliens from our future exploring all previous epochs of time? Obviously, if we had the power to travel back into time, I'm sure many of us would like to do so. For example, take a look at the American Civil War, or perhaps journey back to the era of the Roman Empire. I know I certainly would. Well, there are many characteristics of UFO sightings that make us believe that UFOs might actually be from our own future. First of all, we have many reports of jet pilots pursuing UFOs, then reporting that the UFO has suddenly vanished, disappeared into nothingness. Of course, it's possible that the UFO simply turned on some sort of a sophisticated cloaking device or accelerated to 2,000 miles per hour from a standstill position. But it's also possible that they turned on the time switch, that they went a little forward in time, so it would be impossible for that jet pilot to continue the pursuit. Secondly, UFOs traditionally land in the boondocks and hinterlands of America and other countries. They only speak to isolated individuals. They do not land, say, in Washington, D.C. and share their technological secrets with us. They may be very careful about not upsetting the timeline, for anything they do here would have repercussions in the future, perhaps even jeopardize their very own existence in that future. So again, that's why they may be avoiding humans on a large-scale basis. Thirdly, we have many reports from UFO abductees of missing time experiences. They're aboard a UFO, say, for an hour or two, then return home, look at their watch, and find that it's only 1 minute that has elapsed. In other words, aliens seem to have control of time. And fourth, there are many reports of UFOnauts, that is, the pilots of UFOs, being only 3 or 4 feet in height and looking like children. There's a theory that we humans are actually evolving toward a younger, smaller being. These entities may represent that future descendant who has achieved that status. Perhaps it's 50,000 years in the future, 100,000 years, even 200,000 years. We don't know, but it's certainly possible. And there you have it, 4 reasons why UFOs may actually be from Earth's own future. Speaking of the future, did you know that Cyrano de Bergerac actually existed and was a very prolific sci-fi writer and futurist? He was born back in 1619, died in 1655 at the age of 36. But in his time, he wrote 2 sci-fi novels, A Voyage to the Moon and A Voyage to the Sun. He described alien beings as actually being the mythological gods of Greece and Rome, predating Erich von Däniken by more than 300 years. He even described these aliens as being able to change shape and size, a very modern sci-fi concept. He also argued that these creatures originally came from the moon, but before that were from the sun. He also described several ways for traveling through space, including rocket propulsion and solar sails. Again, 2 very modern concepts. He also described items that could be considered modern-day phonographs, light bulbs, and mobile homes. A true thinker for the future, Cyrano de Bergerac, who is very ably portrayed on the screen by Jose Ferrer in the 1950 film Cyrano de Bergerac. Let's take a look.
I say be silent. And I offer one universal challenge to you all. Anyone? Anyone at all? Not one name? Not one finger? Very well, then, I go on.
Ferrer deservedly won the 1950 Oscar for his portrayal of Cyrano. Now for the legend of the lizard people of Los Angeles. It is said that a tribe of Indians known as the lizard people built a city underneath downtown LA and hid several tablets of pure gold there. We sent our intrepid reporter Dennis out to get the inside details for you. Take it away, Dennis.
Thank you, Dr. Rule. I'm sure you're wondering why I'm wearing this hat. Well, if I were a certain archaeologist, I'd be very interested in this story. I am actually standing at the site where G. Warren Schoenfeld drove a shaft 250 feet into the ground on North Hill Street in an attempt 58 years ago to find the subterranean city of the lost lizard people. You heard me right, lizard people. Schoenfeld was a geophysical mining engineer, and with the help of a radio X-ray which he perfected, he detected a course of tunnels and large rooms, as well as the position of deposits of gold. In order to fully understand this phenomenon, Schoenfeld went to Little Chief Greenleaf of the Hopi Indians in Arizona. The Indian provided the engineer with a legend that corresponded with his findings. Story has it that a superior race of humans built 3 underground cities on the Pacific coast and made LA their capital in the shape of a giant lizard 5,000 years ago. I am now standing near South Broadway and 2nd Street, and according to legend, just below me is a key room which contains a directory of the city. It also houses precious gold tablets on which were written the history of the Mayans and humans. The tunnels tunnels themselves were actually not dug with picks and shovels, but were bored out with a chemical solution which actually dissolved the earth and rock. They stretched from downtown to the ocean, providing ventilation for 1,000 families. But what were these people hiding from? Why go underground? Little Chief Greenleaf told of a great catastrophe in the form of a tongue of fire which came out of the southwest and destroyed everything in its path. Somehow the lizard people survived, and to protect themselves from further disasters, they went underground. Despite Schofeld's extensive efforts, he actually never found this lost city. However, during the excavation of buildings, tunnels were found, only to be explained away as the work of smugglers hiding illegal Chinese workers during the last century. Well, I believe that's hogwash. I believe there is gold, and I believe I'm gonna find it. And when I do, maybe I'll buy you a nice jacket, Dr. Rule. Until we meet again.
Another excellent report. Thank you very much, Dennis. By the way, Schoefeld mysteriously disappeared shortly thereafter and was never seen again. One possibility, he actually did discover the lizard people and they killed him to keep him quiet. Or, on a more mundane note, he may have discovered an underground smuggling operation and was killed to keep him quiet about that. Either way, we never saw or heard from him again. His disappearance is a true mystery. If you have any details about it, please call us at our toll-free 800 number. That's 1-800-45-RULE, R-U-E-H-L. And when we come back, the intriguing facts about the very first kamikaze. Welcome back, and now for the mystery of the very first kamikaze pilot. But first, the trivia question of the day. Let me extricate it here from its paper prison. It's a multiple choice. The term kamikaze is Japanese for A, divine god, B, divine flyer, or C, divine wind. As always, the prize, the only prize, is one pat on the back that you'll have to administer to yourself if and only if you get the correct answer. I'll take a sip of water and be back momentarily with that correct answer. Okay, time is up. Again, kamikaze is Japanese for divine god, divine flyer, or divine wind. The answer, C, divine wind. Now, contrary to all of those images we've seen of World War II kamikaze pilots, the first kamikaze actually originated back in 1904 during the Russo-Japanese War. He was a naval warrant officer named Makasichi Suguno. He thought he would be a hero by ramming his boat into a Russian freighter in Port Arthur. He did so, and everyone thought he died. Back home in Japan, he was regaled as a hero. Songs were sung about him, stories were written, statues erected, and children learned his story in school. But the truth, he did not die. He was rescued by a Chinese junk and taken to Manchuria, where he lived through both World War I and World War II in hiding. After the war, he was discovered, of course, and the secret revealed. Now, as a result of his inspiring story, 6,000 kamikaze pilots alone during the siege at Okinawa took their own lives. We also had not only kamikaze pilots, but kamikaze rafts, kamikaze boats, and kamikaze gliders. But remember, the first kamikaze did not die. And now turning to the future, when we will hopefully establish colonies on both the moon and Mars. Those early explorers will live a truly Spartan life, but in time, we will develop self-contained cities that will have controls for both temperature and atmosphere. Indeed, the malls of today are actually the blueprints of tomorrow's cities on the moon and Mars. Recently opened in Bloomington, Minnesota, was America's largest mall, the Mall of America. Let's take a look. Mall of America, the largest enclosed shopping mall in the United States, covers an area of approximately 3 million square feet. In addition to the usual shops, restaurants, and movie theaters, it boasts a hotel, roller coaster, and miniature amusement park. Malls, such as this one, are works in progress for self-contained, self-sufficient city-states of the future, which we might find here on Earth and off-world. Most likely, these cities will be privately owned, crime-free, weather-free environments that will blur the distinction between private and public space. I hope one day to shop at a mall on Red Planet Mars. Now, for the mysterious forest of missing people, Dateline, Bennington, Vermont. The forest is actually known as the Green Mountain National Forest. It encompasses Mount Glastonbury. Since 1987, no fewer than 7 individuals have been swallowed up by that forest. They're known as the Glastonbury 7. In each case, no one saw the people disappear. No one knows what happened to them. There's been no trace of them, no ransom notes, no evidence of foul play. They simply are missing. The first victim was actually the most surprising. His name was Mitty Rivers, a 75-year-old tour guide who is said to know the forest better than any man on earth. He was leading a contingent of 4 hunters to a campsite, but being a feisty older gentleman, he was moving well ahead of them, and suddenly he vanished into thin air. No trace of him since. No one knows whatever happened to him. Probably the strangest disappearance there involved that of James Tedford, a man who boarded a bus in the town of South Albans on his way to Bennington. Now, there was no stop in the forest, yet the bus did pass by Mount Glastonbury. No one saw the man Tedford get out of a window. They don't know what happened to him, but they do know that when they arrived in Bennington, he was not on that bus. How in the world did he disappear? Again, a true mystery. As far as the other people who disappeared, we had 2 teenage girls, a young boy, and 2 adults. In each case, no one saw the disappearance. There were no bones, no evidence of foul play, no kidnap notes, no evidence that a wild animal ate them up. No evidence of what happened at all. Now, noted parapsychologist Brad Steiger has actually labeled this one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries, for your consideration. And when we return, the fascinating case of the Plowboy Prophet. Welcome back, and now for the case of the Plowboy Prophet. His name was Robert Nixon, and he was born in Cheshire, England in 1467. He was so stupid, he was considered capable of doing nothing but pushing a plow. However, in 1485, he apparently predicted the victory of Henry Tudor over Richard III at Boswell Field. Henry heard about this after he became King Henry VII of England and summoned the young boy to London. Now, Robert did not like that. He had a vision that if he were to go to London and the castle, he would starve to death in that castle. However, he had no choice. When summoned by the king, you either went or were beheaded. When King Henry met him, he set a trap for him. He said he was missing his ring. The Plowboy Prophet showed that he did have some psychic ability, because he told the king, "I know you hid that on me to test me out." Well, of course, Henry was very impressed with the boy. He also learned of the boy's fear that he would starve to death, so he guaranteed he'd always have plenty to eat and be treated regally. The members of the staff, both the hired help and also the servants in the kitchen, disliked the boy because they were jealous of the treatment he was being accorded. So he's sort of protected. However, Henry once had to go out of the country, and he left his captain in charge of the protection of Nixon. However, the captain then was called away, and he thought to protect him from the servants, he would lock him in King Henry's closet. And you can guess what happened next. Everyone forgot all about Robert Nixon, and when they discovered him, he had starved to death in the king's closet. Actually, this proved that he was a true psychic. Unfortunately, once he was dead, he could not capitalize on that reputation. But that's the story of the well-known Plowboy Prophet. If you have any questions, or you've uncovered an intriguing fact, put it in writing or put yourself before the camcorder and send it to P.O. Box 847, Glendale, California, 91209. Now, we don't promise to use anything you send, but if we do, you'll have a small measure of fame, and that's a lot better than a slap on the belly with a wet trout. Now, until next time, may the power of the universe be with you.